There's a bit of a height difference, Dr. Saad. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saad, for your kind words. Our next speaker, actually, I was a student in his class. I don't think I did too well, but that's not his fault. He's an awesome prof. That was my own fault. Dr. Oren Amitay, clinical psychologist, university lecturer, and media consultant. His expertise has been shared on every single major TV, radio, and newspaper outlet in Canada on hundreds of issues and stories. He is highly respected in the field and has completed over 424 parenting capacity assessments for various courts and children's aid societies. I can attest to that. I worked at CS for 8 years and I used to read his magnificent reports all the time. And he's been an expert witness for many complex child protection court hearings. He has taught 20 different courses in the field of psychology at several universities, including Ryerson and York University. His areas of specialty are clinical psychology, abnormal psychology, psychological behavioral disorders, personality, psychology of human sexuality, gender and positive psychology. He is extremely popular and well-liked by his students and has been voted Instructor of the Year at Ryerson and York University in the same 2005 and 6 academic year, as well as the semi-finalist for TVO's Best Lecturer competition in 2007 and 2008. He discusses all things psychological on his podcast, The Real Reality, and on his documentary YouTube channel, Dr. Amitay is a very strong free speech supporter, and he has taken on his colleagues in the field who are actively engaged in stifling free speech. Please welcome Dr. Amitay.
Thank you, Sarina. I just got to load it up here. So look, I'm not delusional, and my narcissism is at a healthy level. So I understand that some of you are wondering why this local club act gets to open for Metallica. I like to hit a wide range of audience, so why do I get to play the Jose Carreras to their Placido Domingo and Luciano Pavarotti? Now, the fact that most of you don't know who Jose is, that's just testament to my great metaphor. The fact that you don't know the other two, that's an indictment of our sad state of culture. So 3 tenors. But in reality, sharing the stage with these, and this is not pandering, so please don't clap because I don't pander, okay? Sharing the stage with these 2 titans at the vanguard of the fight against opponents of freedom, free speech, critical thinking, science, logic, rational thought, right? It's a challenge because I don't write books. I haven't done some of the things that they've done. I see myself, and Sarina may not have thought of this way, but I see myself as I've got 2 roles here, as a bridge and as a ringer. I'll explain those in a second, okay? Now, just as Sarina alluded to, she was a student in my class in psychological disorders, and that was back last year, around this time. And this is when Dr. Peterson's controversy started to make waves. It was around October, November 2016. As soon as that happened, as soon as I saw the backlash she was originally receiving before the media smartened up, I knew that I had to speak up because I knew what he was doing. I knew the concerns he had. I heard them, actually listened to what he had to say. I didn't just read the headlines. So I was able to incorporate what he was saying into my human sexuality class and into my psychological disorders classes. And so Sarina, sitting there in the class with all the other students who like jaws are dropped saying like, he's actually speaking truth. He's not being politically correct. And by the way, this speech is going to sound like the most self-indulgent rant for the next few minutes. It's not self-indulgent. I'm framing it this way. It's not self-indulgent because I represent everybody here. This is how I'm the bridge. I may have a media profile, but it wasn't always that way. I don't have the stature of Dr. Peterson or Dr. Saad or all the people that were up on the screen when Dr. Saad was talking. Neither does Sarina. But as Dr. Saad said, an ordinary person can pull off something like this, and I'm a nobody. Yet I've been trying to have an impact. And so I'm trying to act as a bridge saying, you don't have to just look at these two and say, wow, they're doing a great job. I hope they don't get killed. I hope they don't get pee thrown at them. Okay? The whole thing that Dr. Saad was ending on was, what can you do to get engaged? And I'm hoping that by speaking about some of my experiences, that'll encourage you. Because again, I have no special talents. I've got no special backing. I don't even have tenure. Every time I open my mouth in class, every single time, I risk getting fired. And that's not hyperbole, it's actual truth. Now I'm going to feel bad when I get really self-indulgent. Okay, so I'm going to explain why I do what I do. And Sarina knew from the first time that she met me, or she heard me, she knew I'm into critical thinking. And for me, the fight for free speech is actually secondary to critical thinking, because free speech without critical thinking is at best meaningless and at worst literally deadly. So I have proposed, or I've promulgated the idea of critical thinking in all of my classes. And as Dr. Saad was talking about that liberal professor, so I'm at one of the most progressive universities in Canada. If you ignore the colonial and genocidal history of its own, the founder, as SJWs always say, every time I say it's progressive, if you ignore that, it's a very progressive university. Yet most of my colleagues are afraid to speak truth. They have to toe the party line. In my human sexuality class, I'm not exaggerating, in the first 10 minutes, I mention bad feminism and good feminism. I mention gender myths, like the gender wage gap. I mention transgender issues, homosexuality, rape, child abuse, domestic violence. This is all within 10 minutes of the very first class. And you know what 2 words I don't say? Trigger warning. I've never used that term, well, sarcastically I do, but I've never used it in my classes. And guess what? Virtually all of my students can make it through the entire term. Why? Because I treat them like adults. I treat them respectfully, but I hit them with really hard issues. Because that's what critical thinkers do. They're able to sit through the discomfort that comes with confronting things that scare you, that make you shameful, that make you embarrassed, that make you angry. That's what a critical thinker does. They sit through it, they tolerate it, and then they're able to analyze the reality. They don't let ideology blind them to what's in front of them. So Sarina, she recognized that in me. And so the first thing she said was, I can get Jordan Peterson to come to your class. I said, yeah, right, okay? And sure enough, in February of 2017, Dr. Peterson was gracious enough to come to my human sexuality class. How many people have seen the video, the incendiary discussion at Ryerson? All right, okay. How many saw it on his channel? How many saw it on my channel? Screw you all. All right, so in any event, Sarina, she got Dr. Peterson to come to my lecture. He was gracious enough to do that. And at the same time, I was fighting against, well, first of all, this is the cancel event, and thank you for those who, again, got it canceled. Dr. Saad already, or Sarina mentioned this, because now we're at the sold out, not available ticket event because of those no good nicks. I'm trying to bring that back in fashion, no good nick. Use it, it's just such a beautiful term. These no good nicks out there. And okay, and there's Dr. Peterson doing his talk in my class, which I was honored to have him. After the class, I had to rush off to see some patients. He graciously sat there, or stood there, talked to all these people wanting to talk to him. And the whole point was, I wanted my students to have an opportunity. If they misunderstood what he said, if they took offense or anything like that, they had a chance up front to ask him directly. Don't read the headlines. Form your own opinions based on reality, not what you're being fed. Okay? And at the same time, I was having trouble with my professional, or our professional organization, the Ontario Psychological Association. That's a bunch of psychologists. And it's really sad when a bunch of psychologists who you would think would be trained to be able to tolerate the discomfort that comes with these uncomfortable topics, you think that they'd be able to step back, analyze things, as I was saying earlier. When they were emailing me, okay, I actually facetiously said, are you gonna accuse me of mansplaining? Guess what? I got a lot of the you're mansplaining. I got the whole transphobe, et cetera, et cetera. You're feeding the troll. These are psychologists. These are my colleagues, and they tried to shut me down. I broke a record. I got banned, I believe, 3 times in 1 month. Huh? All right, I had 3 or 4 threads shut down. You shouldn't be clapping, you should be calling the Ontario Psychological Association, kicking their ass. I got banned, I think, in total 4 times. That's 3 times in 1 month, broke records. And it's just because every time I just put a recent event, and I try to say, this is what's going on. This is what we are facing in academia, in our professional practice, and we, as psychologists, have to stand up for this. And almost nobody agreed with me publicly. A large number of people agreed with me privately. And when you ask about what can you do, stop emailing people privately saying, I really support what you're doing, great, good for you, I wish I could do that. Unless there's a really good reason not to do it, unless your career's on the line or your life's on the line, when somebody is speaking out, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, or anything else, put your voice out there. Add a comment. Now, the way I do it, and you're gonna see me, again, it's gonna sound self-indulgent, but I'm gonna tell you a little story. It involves me and somebody else. See if you can guess who it is. It's a special guest. But when you add your voice, you're telling not only the person who's speaking that we're with you, we got your back, you're not alone, because when someone's alone for a long time, they start to give up. You're also telling the opponents of this person that, you know, we're not gonna let this fly. We're gonna stand up to you, and we're gonna make sure that reality prevails, truth prevails. And if you ever watch my Twitter exchanges, aside from a few sarcastic barbs here or there, I conduct myself pretty well. And I'll explain to you the strategy in a second. Now, why do I do what I do? So here's the self-indulgent part. Not everybody can claim this, well, only a few people can claim this. My mother, that's her. I'm a psychologist. What else am I going to talk about but my mother? My mother opened up Canada's first sex store in 1972 at the age of 25, all right? 1972. That year, she got raided by the police. In 1974, at the age of 27, she fought the law, because the law, and I'm going to quote from the court transcript right here, this is what the law stated, this is what the Crown prosecutor was trying to say. These articles would perhaps give offense to some members of the public. This was 40 whatever years ago, all right? We haven't come that far. Someone else is trying to say what is offensive. I'll keep going. The nature, the appearance, the description, and the mode of use of these articles is evidence of their obscenity. So somebody else wanted to tell my mother what is offensive, what is obscene, what she's allowed to sell, and how she's allowed to support her family. And so my mother, at 25 to 27, said, come at me. They did. She won. Laws were changed because of her. As a little kid, I didn't quite understand this much, but I saw what my mother was doing. My mother is a good feminist. I consider myself, and if anyone shouts out cuck, I'm going to come down there, okay? I consider myself an organic feminist. Not ideological, not academic, not political, but more egalitarian. And I could get rid of the term feminist, it's the new F word, we know that, but I'm not going to, because I'm not going to let a bunch of a-holes who've distorted the meaning of so much of our language force me to abandon something that I've held on to for many years, because I saw my mother thank you, but I saw my mother espousing and acting and modeling on the ideas of, I'm going to fight for what's right. Now, that's my mom. Oh, jeez. Right, hang on. What'd you do, Gad? You broke it. All right. And then there's my father. Literally a crazy artist. He has bipolar disorder, undiagnosed for many years, because who would have known? He was a crazy artist. He wants to take all his paintings, throw them in a bonfire in the middle of the night. That's just what you do. You want to sleep for 3 days, walk the desert, whatever. It's what you do when you're an artist. So my father, by the way, he did a lot of animation for Sesame Street, so some of you may have actually seen his work. So my father, as a man in the 1960s in Israel, as one of the intellectual and artistic elite, was basically run out of the country. Why? Because he dared to say, you know what? maybe we should treat Palestinians and Arabs as human beings. For that, his circle of, again, this elite got rid of him. He was put on an assassination list called the shit list, where it's a self-hating Israeli terrorist or something, I forget what it is, okay? It's garbage, but some crazy rabbi, some evil rabbi, put him on an assassination list with a whole bunch of other people because his ideas were the wrong ideas. Did my father back down? No. What did he do? He made, first of all, that's a little peek into my father's mind. Okay? Using a variety of arts, paint, ink. The ones on the right, by the way, on the two to the right, those are on those little slides that you used to put in the slide projectors. He used to paint on those little slides, okay? So he may have been crazy, but he's pretty talented. So my father continued to fight, and he fought to promote peace. He fought to promote tolerance, understanding, just trying to get along. And just so you know, a lot of the films that he made were after he had a heart attack. His spine literally disintegrated. He's got titanium, we call him Wolverine, he's got titanium rod and spikes in his back. He had a couple of major strokes, 2 hernias. I sat there with him when the doctor said, you're never gonna walk again, let alone use your hands or anything like that. He still continues to do his art. And the bottom one in the middle there, that's something that he posted right after our event got shut down. And he was just so pissed off at that. And this is him with his hands. He's fought back. So I've got a mother and I've got a father. It's in my DNA. I've got 2 fighters. Those were my models. And then maybe you didn't have those models yourselves. But these are the people who taught me several different principles. And what are they? So number 1. Couldn't have planned it better. Thank you. Yeah, you said it. It's my internalized Nazism. The jig is up. All right, so I learned 5 things from my parents. I learned lots of things, but the 5 things that are relevant to today are adopt solid principles to which to aspire and to guide you in life. Find a sense of purpose or a cause worth fighting for. And then 3, never give in, never give up. 4, don't let other people's opinions or actions dictate your own. And 5, never do things the normal way. So I'm going to now take this to the relevance of this talk today. Who are the greatest threats to, well, you already know the answer, all right? Free speech, honest discourse, critical thinking, fact, evidence-based practice and policies, personal liberties, et cetera, we got the answer, okay? Historically, it's always been this. However, these days, these are the opponents, and most people should recognize most of these people. Tucker Carlson's not an opponent, I'm not a fan of his or anything, but he's just, it's because he had that woman on, the teacher who was assaulting people on the street, and she's a teacher. That's what she's teaching her kids. Anyway, so if you don't know who they are, Google them. They're travesties to the academia world. Now, I could show you a bunch of pictures, any random picture. Type in SJW, and we can find many, many pictures on the internet that I could have used. But for today's talk, I chose one special person. Now, I want to be very clear. Just as much as this talk, my self-indulgent narrative, is not about me, it's more about you. This one person is irrelevant. She's a nobody. I don't want to feed into her a little bit of infamy in the last little while, so I'm not talking about her. She's just the most recent representative of what I've been dealing with and what you need to do in order to help fight the fight. Become one of the soldiers in Gad's army of, what is it? Soldiers of reason. Okay, if you want to become a soldier of reason, this is what you have to do. So, right? Some of you will recognize this person. She's the one who helped get us shut down. It's Christine, I'm not going to give her name, okay, this person. So, let's move forward. As Sarina was saying, yes, we were labeled as Nazis. So for somebody whose grandmother survived Auschwitz, for someone whose family was wiped out in World War II by the Nazis, just a little bit tasteless. She called us fascists, bigots, etc. And at the bottom you see this, all of whom, her language is very telling, blah, 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 all of whom have now called for the heads of the organizers and have begun engaging with the alt-right to crowdfund and more. I missed out on that action, all right? I haven't been doing any crowdfunding. I ain't got no money for this. And by the way, when I said that I'm a ringer, the reason I'm a ringer is I have not monetized the fight for free speech. So someone says, well, the cynical people say, well, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Saad, they're doing this just to make money. They're trying to bilk you, blah, blah, blah. Well, try saying that about me. My fight for free speech is because I believe in it, just like they do as well, but I haven't made a cent off of this. I need to speak to you, Dr. Saad. We gotta work on marketing here, okay? But I haven't. I've got a career. I've got 3 careers. I don't need the money, but I do need to contribute to a world where my 3 daughters, ages 8 to 20, can live a proper life and not be ruled by ideology. So this is what she, what the hell? All right. So after that, she realized that the Nazi symbol might have gone just a little bit too far, so she put up this poster, no fascist TO, diversity rally, blah, blah, blah. And she didn't know that she was gonna run into me. That's me. Thank you, Jonathan, I see you over there. All right? So what did I do? Well, I did what you need to do. After she got us shut down, because the university called me and said, hey, just before the guys, after they called Sarina, they called me and said, it ain't happening. I didn't get angry. I wrote a message to her. Hello, Christine. I'm writing to you privately so as not to make a spectacle of my effort to reach out and educate you. You can do with this message what you wish, of course, but I have love. And you'll see some of the other stuff I said. That's what I did. I tried to reach out in private, not to make some big scene, but to try to see whether she has any reason in her. And it wasn't to get the event turned up, back on, because the university already said, as Sarina said, it's banned for life. It wasn't about that. I was trying to help her. And by the way, Sarah Ali, she's another protester. I think she's from SAFE, I forget what it stands for. But I reached out to her as well, in the same manner, a few days ago, it was on Wednesday, basically telling her, if you're planning on protesting, speak to me first. See if you really think that it's worth protesting after you've spoken to me. She didn't get back to me. Neither did Christine. And I'm not going to make you read all of this, but these are just some of the screenshots of the stuff that I sent to Christine. Very polite, respectful, civil. I told her I disagree with you, you're wrong, you're misguided, and I gave her some advice. It would have been better for you to have reached out to me or any of the other panelists so that you could actually hear our words rather than assume you know our beliefs, thoughts, and intentions, because she, of course, assumes we're all Nazis. And I reached out to her again, and again, and again, and she kept ignoring it. So finally I said, look, after 3 days of trying to reach out, I said, I gave you many opportunities to respond. I'm now posting a message to you publicly. This is what you do. Again, originally, I was just trying to engage her. She wasn't going to engage me back. So at this point, I'm not reaching her. I realize I'm dealing with someone who's unreachable. And this is very important. Again, if you're thinking, what can you do? If you're just shouting at SJWs, if that's your hobby, is triggering SJWs, radical feminists, etc., okay, why not wrestle with a 3-year-old? It's equally challenging, all right? You're applauding for abusing 3-year-old kids.
Oh.
All right, so the point is, check your motives. I truly, legitimately reached out with good intentions. Now, when she didn't respond, I went public. And then I said, this message will be deleted. You want to do something, always predict what they're going to do. You've had enough engagement with these people, you know their tactics, you know what they're going to do, so put it out there. At this point, and this is so important, when you ask what you can do, you're not going to reach a certain fringe element. They're beyond reachable. To do, and I said this in my videos, screw you all for not having seen the videos, go to Dr Amitay, all right, docamity.com or Dr Amitay on YouTube, and I said step by step how you do this. When you engage with a person, conduct yourself with the proper decorum. Be polite, be respectful, be civil, don't use names. Again, I throw a dash of sarcasm every once in a while. I'm tired, I'll do that, but for the most part I'm extremely civil, because I don't care about that person at this point. At first I do. If they prove that they can't be reached at this point, all I care about are the people around them, because I want them to see those other people and then see me. Here I am being polite, respectful, asking very specific, direct questions over and over and over. And what do they see? They see the person deflecting, avoiding, mocking, making fun of certain things, changing the topic, throwing out names. And when they see that, if they were thinking of joining whatever movement, cause, or whatever that they wanted to join, that person was representing, they step back and they go, do I really want to be part of this? Do I want to associate myself with someone like that? That's the strategy. And I've done it time and time again. And believe it or not, it's actually worked many times on Twitter. And it's not because I have a name, because I've done this before I had any kind of small name. It's the way of interacting with other people. And again, you're not reaching the unreachables. It's everybody else around them. And how did that play out here? Well, let's take a look. Christine's response, Oren, nobody rational cares. And then, by the way, she deleted everything, just like I predicted she would. Okay? Next, you can't read it very much, but if you look at the bottom, it's funny because your whole free speech thing protects my right to tell you that you're a transphobic asshole. She's got a theme, because then she goes to Dr. Saad when she was claiming Dr. Saad of doxing her. The same rights that allow you to preach hateful Islamophobia and transphobia protect my rights to protest. Good luck, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So again, Islamophobe, transphobe, the usual labels. And she kept doing this over and over and over. And then she did the old, if you're going to be an aggressive, abusive person, and by the way, I'm going to be very clear here, I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not speaking about anybody specifically. I may be talking about her in the moment, but what I'm about to say is not a diagnosis or any type of labeling of her. I'm being very serious here. The fact is, we know clinically, Dr. Peterson has worked with people like this, we know clinically that certain types of people are unable to accept responsibility, have no empathy, are unable to take another person's perspective, deflect, avoid, lie blatantly, even when they know they're going to get caught. And those people are psychopaths. And I'm not making a joke here. They are psychopaths, they're malignant narcissists, sociopaths, a couple of antisocial personalities. I'm not saying that these people have these personality traits, but they certainly act in the same way. And there's another type as well that I've talked about, and I said this on a video, and people keep saying, why are you making all these caveats? And because if I don't, one of those a-holes is going to watch the video, and they're going to make an official complaint against me. I know because they have. So the other type is, we're talking about borderline personality. And I work with so many people with borderline personality disorder, I would never say anything that would make fun of, denigrate, demean them in any way. It's not about that. But what I'm saying is, when I watch a lot of these SJWs, radical feminists, etc., in action, watch the eyes. I've watched a lot of videos, I've watched a lot up front. The eyes are telling. They go into this trauma mode. A lot of people are coming from trauma. And this is their misguided way of healing the trauma of the past, healing their wounds of their past. And because they found some enemy, whether it's Dr. Peterson or Dr. Saad or myself or somebody else, they found a symbol of the evil that they had to endure when they were younger, or maybe recently, whenever. And they believe that if I take this person down, if I put them in their place, somehow it's going to heal me. And it's not like they logically think, this is more of an unconscious process, but that's what they're dealing with. So once you see someone's in trauma or they're in their fight or flight mode, you're not able to reason with them. All they start doing is they start going to this mantra. They start yelling, no KKK, no blah, 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 and they just go on and on, just chant, 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 and you watch it. Okay? You're not going to get anywhere with them. So yelling them down, shutting them down, all you're going to look like is a bully. I hate the term, but that's what you're going to look like. If you're very respectful, civil, speak facts, ask questions, it's important to ask questions, then their conduct says it all. And all the people around them, they see it and they go, I don't want to be a part of that. Okay? So, what does a psychopath or a malignant narcissist do? I'm not claiming she is, but what do? They play the victim. Now, this is a terrible thing. I'm not making fun of this. But they also lie a lot. She says, do you know that people who had tickets to your panel have threatened to kill me and my children? Well, I already trumped her because in my first message to her, because she had already been talking about that, I said to her, I basically addressed it. I know some of the people's responses to your protest were entirely despicable and unacceptable, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. And then I said, I trust you contact the police with the evidence for threats against you and your stepmother. Originally it was her and her stepmother, now it's her children, whatever. Okay? I say whatever, not to belittle these threats, but she's never shown any proof, and I've been the victim, I've been the recipient of her lies. Okay? And again, her is not her. Her is every single person in this position, these SJWs, these ones who feel that they can act with impunity. And why can they act with impunity? Because those previous slides where they have professors, they have politicians, they have parents who are encouraging this, or at least allowing this to happen. That's the problem. So it's up to you to step up when you see it happening and just call them out for it. Politely, respectfully, call them out time and again. And again, they're not going to learn. They're beyond learning, but the people around them will. Now, all right, just one more thing. Just so you know, speaking of calling out, she says, for the record, the only outreach any of the panelists did was to dox me. Stop lying, you nasty human. That was me. Okay, because I kept saying to her, I said, why did you not respond to me? I invited you, and one of the messages, by the way, I actually invited her to this panel. I said, contact Sarina Singh. I know Sarina said no, but I gave her the option. I said, I gave her the email, I think I gave phone number. You know, I said, contact her. You want to be, instead of fighting us, come up, speak with us. Now, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Saad, like, no way are we going to give a space to this person because we don't want to reward bad behavior. I get that, right? You act reprehensibly. Why should you then be allowed to stand on the stage with you know, people, these titans? So I get that. But I put the offer out there. Of course, she didn't take it. Okay? So, and she's saying that I never reached out to her. So what did I do? I posted screenshots. Now, you may not be a Dr. Peterson or a Dr. Saad. You may not have any media profile like I do, perhaps, but you have the ability to screenshot. You have the ability to tweet. You have the ability to show this to other people. Okay, and again, it's not gang up on her time, all right? Please don't find her and dox her, God forbid. All I'm saying is, whoever that person is that she represents, you have to make them accountable, because that's the one thing they don't understand is accountability. And by the way, speaking of accountability, just so you know, yesterday, I asked my lawyer, he said I can say this, yesterday I delivered my lawyer letter finally to Christine, telling her that what she did was totally wrong, reprehensible, etc. It was a cease and desist, but she is, I did send that legal letter to her. Now, if she acts like I think she will act, I'm going to start crowdfunding. So each of you who comes here who supports free speech, you better be ready to pony up, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, $5, because I'm not going to ask her for any money, she has no money. But on principle, I'm willing to fight this to make sure, and again, it's not about her, but all these people out there, these reprehensible SJWs and so on, who just libel, slander, defame people at will, someone has to be held accountable. And I'm gonna, again, unless you guys pony up a little bit, I'm gonna go into my own pocket and spend $50,000 to $70,000 it takes, all right? So I'd really like it if a few people chipped in. I have a very good memory. I've committed each and every one of your faces to memory. So I saw you clapping right now, all right? When I come knocking at your door going, $5, all right? I expect it. All right? Now, by the way, when I confront her with evidence, her response, oh, geez, Photoshop's incredible, eh? All right? This is what we're dealing with. And all this time, I still conduct myself, you can't see it so well, I wish it was bigger, but I'm just being very calm and rational, okay? Oh, by the way, the person who interviewed her for City TV, I tweeted her and said, this is who you interviewed. This is the person that you wanted to use as a counter to Sarina's interview and Dr. Saad's interview, because they interviewed them and her. It was a pretty imbalanced piece. And I said, is this really the person that you want to represent the other side? Good for you. Look how she's conducting herself. All right? I'm relentless. Now, while she's doing her silly tweets and Facebook or whatever, I contacted the media. I went on Russian TV, Toronto Sun, News Talk 1010, AM 640, a bunch of places, and pretty much told them the story because I wanted it to get out there. Again, I don't care about her. I want other people to realize you can't pull this shit. Now, you can't read it, but basically, she would mock everything that I was doing. Apparently, okay. People send me things. Have you seen what she's doing now? Okay. And then, here's where the hypocrisy comes in. That's what malignant narcissists like to do as well. So, I'm pretty sure most SJWs would be really offended by body shaming or insulting someone's looks. Well, she did it twice in one day. Okay, a blotchy potato. Okay, I don't even know what that means. And she went after Dr. Peterson as well. Okay? And Dr. Peterson's got a very thick skin. It means nothing to him, but again, I want to show other people the hypocrisy. It's holding people to account. You want to know what you can do? Hold people to account. A little bit more. And then, of course, I tweeted out widely so that people could see what she's doing. A little bit more. Oh, and by the way, after that, she's photoshopped beautifully. Oh, a little while later, a few weeks later, I don't know why, but she finally came to the conclusion, I gotta stop lying about this. So she finally admitted, oh, he did reach out to me. He did make efforts. He did try to, communicate in a friendly manner. All right, but one line, that's it. And that didn't deter her. She kept doing her silliness. Now, Danny Polishuk, I saw him somewhere here. There he is, that handsome young man. Round of applause. Now I'm pandering. Do you even know what you're applauding for? Don't do it. Don't follow someone just because they tell you to. Don't blindly follow. Okay. All right. Well, Danny Polishuk, a comedian, local comedian. I should have got your bio, sorry, Danny. All right, but Danny, not to be deterred by these fools, these no-goodniks, he put the No Fascist TO comedy show, come together to celebrate the things that rather silence us for. It was a parody of the people trying to shut down us Nazis. And so he had the comedy show, and the first show, how did it go, Danny? How did the first show go? So these, again, I gotta use the word no-goodnik. You better all walk out of here and be using no-goodnik. All right, next time you get in a fight with some big guy in the bar, hey, you no-goodnik. Right, it works, this puts them in their place. Some good people who are nobodies, I mean, it's not an insult, they just, no one's special. They said, that's not cool. They explained it, they held the people to account, and what do people do in those situations? They double down, they act like bigger a-holes, okay? But someone tried to hold them to account. And, once again, does this count as the best gotcha ever? Okay, once again, they pulled a fire alarm. How many fire trucks showed up, Danny? 6, yeah, 6 fire trucks that should have, been ready for real emergencies. They had to come to this event, and they're laughing at it. They're mocking it. So what does Danny do? Danny confronts her, okay? And he just challenged her. I'm not going to read the whole thing, okay, but he challenges her on that. And then at the end, she goes, instead of acknowledging, instead of saying sorry, instead of saying anything, instead of PMing him, she didn't message you privately, did she? No, okay, I just want to make sure. That would have really ruined everything, all right? She goes, oh, I did see a lot of empty seats in that auditorium, so tee-hee. Okay, but comedian to comedian, this has got to be one of the best pranks you've ever had pulled on you, I'm sure. All right, this is the level of maturity that we're dealing with. And again, it's not about her. Each and every one of you who's ever had a Twitter interaction with one of them has had something similar. Okay, you know what we're dealing with. So, this pleasant fellow, you recognize him, Danny? Oh yeah. He's the one who ended up getting the first event canceled. And you know anything else about him?
Yeah, he works for the Canadian Journalist for Free Expression.
Wrap it up? Okay, I'm getting there. Jeez. Sorry, Danny. They're very rude to you. Okay.
I was saying he works for the Canadian Journalist for Free Expression, and he told people to call the comedy bar to complain.
To shut it down. Again, so he's trying to have an event, and people, just like with Dr. Saad, people are coming in who have no place to come in, and they're trying to get people to be shut down. So Danny challenges people, and what I do? So he made this line saying, I do think pulling the alarms is an ineffective and cliche tactic. Here's the thing. If a normal person murders somebody, and they say, did you kill them? They say yes or no. That's what a normal person does when they kill somebody, okay? When a psychopath kills somebody, and they say, did you kill them? They say, I'm opposed to murder. Very big difference. They never acknowledge it. So him saying, I do think pulling a fire alarm, whatever, that's just slimy. So I challenged him, right directly, said, do you deny it? And then I said, do you denounce Christina Elizabeth or Seed, that's the new organization she's started up, for having pulled it because they either did it or they know who did. And his response, well, you're a libelous piece of shit, okay? Again, hold people accountable. Don't let them weasel. And by the way, I asked several times, do you think he answered? Nope. And last few slides, I basically went out to the Seed page and said, is anybody willing to support Seed's actions? Not one person, right? When you put the spotlight on the reprehensible actions, you make people say, I don't want to be associated with this. On that Seed page, seriously, virtually all of the messages are against them. Well, they were, but guess what they started doing? Well, here's what happened. I'm going to skip another thing. Actually, you know what? I'm going to just very quickly say this because this is something very serious. This is something that Dr. Saad was talking about. I'm going to block out her name because this poor woman, she's had a change of heart. But she wrote, Sue Ann Levy, Oren Amitay, and their followers think misgendering me on Twitter and on my Facebook page is hilarious and hurts my feelings. Truth is, it just makes them look like assholes. In Canada today, I'm going to guess, do you think? I mean, I think that would be constituted as a hate crime, would it not? Intentionally misgendering somebody? Okay, that may now be a hate crime. So I'm being accused in public of committing a hate crime. And the fact is, a couple of times I did I say, I meant to say them, and I'm not being facetious. I said she a couple of times. I said I'm really sorry, and I went down and I tried to fix it. I made them, they, etc. Because I don't want to be party to a hate crime. And when they said that I had missed one, I went back and I fixed it. Never made fun of it, never joked about it or anything, and that's what they're saying. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is, very quickly, almost finished, is, I'm going to skip this, is because, okay, I'll skip that too. Skip. Because I called out Christine Elizabeth, once again calling her out, it's not about her, it's about anyone in her role, to Acorn, a place that she represents. They do good work, they help people, poor people. And I said, is this the person you really want to represent? And a few hours later, I got this message. Now, you can't really read it, but I got a message from Acorn saying, contacting a person for piece of employment or otherwise to harass their bosses, blah, blah, blah. They basically threatened me, said that they were going to call, they spoke to the police at 72 Division. You know what? I checked. There's no such thing as 72 Division, all right? I responded, I said, Christine, I know this is you. Don't joke around, this is not harassment, etc., etc. I didn't get a screenshot because as soon as I hit send, I had to do something for a few minutes, came back, the whole thread was deleted. Why? Because the person a few minutes ago who said that I had misgendered her, or had misgendered them, sorry, had misgendered them, had a change of heart. So the same person, this person right now, is the same person that was going after me. By the way, they spent a week every day posting all these things about me. Now we had a bit of a back and forth, but they saw how reprehensibly Christine was behaving. And so this was one of the organizers of SEED. This was one of the heads of this new organization. But the pressure got too much. They saw what was going on, and they backed down. And they are saying Christine doesn't want to take responsibility for her actions, and anyone who wants to hold her accountable for those actions is effectively removed from her life and then lied and gossiped about. Okay? So being forceful, being diligent, and not giving up got one of the co-founders of SEED to back away. Now, maybe something else was going on, I don't know, but I know I put a lot of effort into this. So this is what you can do. And I'm going to skip this part. Yeah, I'll skip that. And then finally, this is what people do. The reason we don't delete hateful comments is so that fence sitters can see what cowards or what crowd these folks attract. So they're pretty much trying to say that just because some people are hateful, are ugly, say really terrible things, somehow that's Dr. Peterson's fault, or Dr. Saad's, or my fault. Okay? No, they're being jerks themselves. And, as I said earlier, they deleted all the threads from me because they didn't like me holding them to account.
What's your point?
The point, who said that, please?
I just want to know why we're just talking about Twitter and not having a discussion about what behavior is talking about.
This is what well, because the question is, what can you do? And I'm showing you that if you put effort into it, look, how are we going to communicate? I'm not going to go with baseball bats to their homes. That wouldn't be right. This is social media. This affects people. It's not the person. Again, she's a nobody. But I've had many people contact me. Sorry?
This argument you're having with a woman on the internet is not a problem. It's not the problem. Nor is it.
Really, it is the problem because that one person was able to encourage people, encourage a whole event to get shut down. You do remember that they did get this event shut down originally. They got a university to back down from 3 respected academics having a speech. They broke locks on a comedy event. They pulled fire alarms to prevent firefighters from doing their job. You don't think that's important? I think it's a little bit important. Okay, that's the relevance. So give me a few more minutes and then I'll wrap it up, okay? So anyway, this is just one more example when they do something bad, other people chimed in. And again, this is what you can do. You can chime in and show support to the people who are standing up and trying to prevent this or trying to make some good things happen, whether it's Sarina, whether it's Danny, or anybody else, okay? So that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting to support each other. And then finally, Saad said, "Oh, well, after much discussion, we realized that some people are going to. They're afraid that people are going to run them over in the parking lot." Okay. Again, lies. Did anyone hear of any plot to run you all or run all over the protesters? No. But they just make up these lies rather than saying, "Whoops, the tide is turning." Because enough people have stood up. Because enough people have said, "This is enough. It's wrong. Let people speak. Let the truth be heard. We can handle it." Because enough people did it, they backed off, all right? And I called them out on it, as always, okay? So finally, what can you do? I've been making video after video after video, and again, I don't consider myself somebody, I'm a nobody, especially compared to these guys. I'm a nobody, but I've contacted some very important people who are experts in the field. And each person I've contacted is very controversial, whether it's about homosexuality, bisexuality, transgender issues. These are some of the big names, and I'm encouraging discussion where they don't get a voice. Most people don't want them to speak. Dr. Saad has had some of them on. Dr. Peterson has spoken with a lot of these people. We're trying to promote voices that other people need to hear. You don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but you should hear it and be able to formulate your own opinions. So finally, whether it's these famous people, or whether it's just common folk, including this one woman whose daughter, if you see, whose daughter was kind of pushed into an autistic daughter. An autistic daughter at the age of 12 suddenly became trans. She's autistic. And because of the ideology, instead of a doctor saying, well, why did you suddenly at the age of 12, without any indication ever before, why do you suddenly think that you're no longer a girl but a boy? Instead of saying that, that person, that professional, quote unquote professional, pushed them in the direction of surgery basically. Okay? Binding breasts, hormone blockers, and surgery's coming next. Double mastectomy. Okay? So this is why we need to speak up. Because if we don't speak up, ideologists win. And what can you do? Well, here's, some of these guys are here today. The bottom left is Andrew. He's been inspired by Dr. Peterson. He has his own website. He has videos. He's doing this, he's trying to work himself, to sort himself out. He's been inspired by Dr. Peterson. It's gratifying to see how many people have been inspired by Dr. Peterson's word. This hateful, terrible, bigot, whatever. When people actually listen to him, they can, you don't need me to tell you this, so I'm going to stop saying it. But the fact is, normal people who have just regular jobs are putting on podcasts. They're interviewing people. They're trying to get the word out, and that's what you can do as well. So get engaged, join the army of the reasonable. Soldiers of reason. Soldiers of reason. Join the soldiers of reason. And thank you for going on. And I apologize if I offended your sensibilities by being self-indulgent. But thank you very much. Yay.